This SRCD monograph by Townsend and colleagues contains research about how youth in Northern Ireland have been affected by violence and politics. The project built on a longitudinal study begun many years ago by Mark Cummings, one of the monograph's authors. In addition to using existing data on youth's emotional security, the authors collected new data to assess the surrounding political environment. In this video, produced by the University of Notre Dame, Mark Cummings describes how he started the initial project, and he talks about the complexities and rewards of conducting longitudinal, collaborative, interdisciplinary, and international research.
When I came to Notre Dame, I for many years studied conflict in families and children. And the then provost at Notre Dame suggested, because I studied conflict, I might want to become a fellow of the Kroc International Peace Institute, International Peace Studies. So I did, and I sat in the meetings as a fellow for several years. I noticed that most people talking about peace process were talking about political aspects of peace process. So, and I study families and children, but I felt like peace process needs to be understood from the point of view of communities, families, and children, both to understand the prospects for peace and the impact of conflict, but also to achieve lasting peace, we need to help families and children and communities adapt to the peace situation, and that wasn't being talked about. So I talked to the director of the Kroc Institute at lunch one day. He suggested that I pursue starting a study in Belfast on political violence in children from the point of view of families and children. So he gave me the contact information for somebody over there. And I went over there and I got started in a rough kind of way, just finding out how things were going. And we didn't have any funding. And I pursued over a period of 3 years, different funding avenues with colleagues at the Kroc Institute, but none of them panned out. And it wasn't going too well, but I kept hoping it would. So I really wanted to extend the study of political violence to understanding effects on communities, families, and children. And I also wanted to make broader the importance of understanding families and children to other contexts, such as political contexts. So finally, I was asked by the director of Kroc to come to dinner one night with a visitor from Northern Ireland named Ed Cairns, who was the expert in Northern Ireland political violence in children. And he gave a talk, and in the talk he suggested a review piece that I'd published online with Kroc. It was one of the best review pieces that was done. I actually published it with an undergraduate Notre Dame student. Now a twist was that the PowerPoint didn't work that time, so I had to verbally describe it, his talk. But it was enough that it got us talking at dinner. And we agreed at dinner that we should pursue this someday. And I'd already been trying to pursue it for several years without success. So we met. He emailed me and said, why don't we meet at a major society meeting, the Society for Research and Child Development, and talk more about it, which we did at breakfast. It was in April, somewhere along the way, years ago. And after breakfast, we agreed we should pursue this. I met some colleagues of mine who were reviewers, as I was at the time, for the National Institutes of Health, reviewer grant proposals. They said there was a call for children in violence. And so I saw Ed and I said, let's pursue that. And I talked to the program officer for it. She said it was possible to do international research. So Ed and I scrambled. It was in April. We had to get the proposal together by June. And we got it together and we submitted it. And then we got the scores back. We just missed funding. So we tried again a year later. We got funded. So that was good. So we're very excited. We got the team together. We had initial members of the team were Tina Marilis, Marcy Goki-More, Alice Skirmerhorn, who now are all faculty other places, but at the time they were grad students. We went over there all excited to get started with the project. We met Ed in Belfast at Jury's Hotel in Belfast, a few doors down from the most bombed hotel in Europe. It was a tense area. They had been working with a survey company for a long time. They were going to collect data. We got the money to come in to start the project the following week. We met at breakfast and Ed told us the survey company just folded. So there's no way to do the study. There's no survey company. So we literally got the phone book out, started looking for survey companies in the phone book. And Ed fortunately knew the names of several that were promising, but 2 of them were too expensive for the grant that I had. So the initial NIH grant that I just gotten. So third one though we did pursue, and it worked out really well. The study got started. Before that, it looked like Tina Marillis, a grad student, was going to stay in Belfast for 6 months or a year and collect data door to door, which didn't seem very promising, given the context. But that we were that eager to get going. So we got the funding, and it was all really good and went along really well. As we got going, we wanted to maximize the value of the project. And I was also concerned that every member of the team had their own productive identity in the project, so they would then later have their research line that they could pursue, getting jobs elsewhere. So in the beginning, we met each year in Belfast. We met with the survey company and our colleagues in Northern Ireland. And we talk about the next year's project, the measurement, and the research design. And each time we tried to think of ways, each member of the team would have lines of research they could pursue that would be independent and important, in addition to contribute to the broader effort. So for example, Tina Marillis studied social identity, and Laura Taylor studied looking at civic engagement and positive aspects of kids responding. Marcy Gorky-Mori studied religiosity. These are all people who are now professors in other places. And they pursued that. So we would adapt the measurement each time to possibly adding measures or other ways structuring it so each person would have a direction. There's some other people too I'm not mentioning, but well, Dana was the Macrosystem, and Justin Lungingham was fathers, and they've now actualized those directions as well. And so that was another goal of ours, was each person had their own independent direction as well as their contributing to the broader project, which we met every year for about a week in Belfast, and we met on phone calls, conference calls, literally every single week. And we also had other types of of course, email and so forth. Then I applied for another grant to support the project further, and I got another 5-year NIH grant, which allowed us to do 6 waves of funding. Originally, we were only going to do 2. So 6 consecutive years of funding and data collection for 999 families. Then I had an opportunity to get money from the Northern Ireland government, the First Minister, Deputy First Minister funding outlet, which provided us money to develop a publication that outlined how to take practical advantage of these findings in helping families and children in Belfast.
Thank you for watching this video, which was produced by the University of Notre Dame Communications Office. If you liked this video, consider watching our Monograph Matters playlist. For additional resources related to this and other issues of the monographs of the Society for Research in Child Development, please visit monographmatters.srcd.org.